What is going on, everybody? What is going on, Boys Crypto family? Welcome to the Boys Crypto Show. Super excited that each and every single one of you are here sharing your time with me here on this crazy Wednesday. Look at the bubbles here on the daily. We have things up big. We have things down big. What a mixture in the market, honestly. A 50-50 split down the middle. Fartcoin, one of the biggest green bubbles. No surprise there. Look at that. And Mantra DAO, the rug pull of the cycle. We're going to dive into Mantra DAO and talk about it. What happened? Where is it going? Are we going to see more downside for this token? But honestly, I wouldn't be touching it with a 10-foot pole, baby, a 10-foot pole. Before we get into any of this, we are going to dive in where we do every single stream here, baby, on BTC, Bitcoin here, baby, Bitcoin. Now, Fed Chair Jerome Powell did come out and say he had some comments talking about inflation and where we are going to go here in the future with rate cuts, and we really didn't get a whole lot of new news. He said there are likely rate cuts to come in the event that tariffs continue, and if inflation does continue to rear its head, it may be put on the back burner, baby. It may be put on the back burner in order to keep unemployment afloat. He did mention that. He said, I am going to balance unemployment with inflation, and that means he can't let unemployment get too bad, likely leading to rate cuts in the coming future here, leading into the rest of 2025. But here we are for BTC, not an uncommon zone for us here, baby. Still trending underneath that 200 daily moving average here. The 200 daily moving average, we're sitting at about 84.5 right now. 84.5, sitting above the high volume node here, which is sitting at about 84,000. That is a good sign, baby. That is a good sign. If you guys want to talk about anything, drop it on in the chat, baby. Drop it on in the chat. We are going to talk about all the altcoins. Gold going on a massive meteoric tear today. One of the biggest candles for gold that I've seen in a very, very long time coming in yesterday. Gold sitting at about 33.50 now. Wow, absolutely crazy. So BTC here, baby. BTC. What am I seeing for Bitcoin? Well, we're above this high volume node. Good sign. Good sign. We still have this prolonged, and it's been forever. It's been about since the 10th of March, about over a month ago, that this daily bullish divergence has been forming as we have a swing down here on price action while we have a swing up or swing across here on the RSI, suggesting that we're going to crack this 88.7 region before we come down here and crack this 74.5 region. A very, very good indicator for BTC for reversal to the upside, and we did get that reaction off the bullish divergence. Is that going to be enough to get us to push? Well, we do have to start playing 200 MA dominoes to the upside, baby, to the upside. We're currently, as we stand, above the 1 hour 200 SMA. We're above the 2, we're above the 2, the 3, and we're above the 4 as well. So we're doing okay with that in regards to that. Where's the 6 hour 200 MA? That's likely going to be the area that gives us issues. And right now we broke above, we're breaking beneath it. And right now the 21 and the 200 are overlapping here on the 6 hour time frame. And this candle closes in just under 2 hours and an hour and 54 minutes. Wow, dyslexia right there. And an hour and 54 minutes. The stochastics are reset, pointing to the upside on the 6 hour, looking very, very good for continuation to the upside, where this bullish divergence may play out on the daily, where we may crack that 88.7 region. This could happen throughout the course of the night, the next 24 hours, leading into market open tomorrow, baby, tomorrow. So weird. I got instead of having Monster, because it's not the beginning of the day, it's closer to the end of my day now. Wow, it's completely different. I appreciate y'all's patience as we got the transition going, baby. The transition. I don't know if any of you guys worked nights before, but whenever you're going from nights to days, that transition period, you just feel like you've had a lobotomy, man. You're walking around and you're just, oh my goodness, it's absolutely crazy. So I appreciate each and every single one of you guys' patience. Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy weekend doing that transition, but we are back in the charts, baby. We are back in the charts, ready to move to the upside for crypto, BTC, and the Boys Crypto channel, baby, in the Boys Crypto channel. Super happy that each and every single one of you guys are here. Lily, April, Wanda, Michaela, Reviews, glad you all are here joining me on this Wednesday. All right, that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. We're currently testing the 6 hour 200 SMA, sitting above the high volume node at about 84,000. It's a good sign. We'll see how this develops throughout the night, and it may even take a little longer, honestly. What I don't want to see on the 6 hour is this shoulder, head, right shoulder start to form out here. We do the shoulder, the head, and this could potentially be a right shoulder that sends us back downward. I do acknowledge that. And there is a nice gap in the VRVP to the downside here, and we'll get caught right around that target at about $80,000. Nobody wants to see that, but it's a 6-hour time frame. Gonna take some time to play out, and we need to crack above this 6-hour 200 SMA, and then we'll be heading to where? Yep, that 8-hour 200 SMA sitting at about 87.1, and we'll deal with that when we get there, baby. We'll deal with that when we get there. But looking okay for BTC as we go throughout into this evening. Looking all right. What's coming up that could affect Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency prices, baby? Well, over here, let's go to the U.S. economic calendar and see what we got coming in on Thursday and Friday. And every week, this is a market mover, baby. Every week, this is a market mover. 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow, we have the initial jobless claims coming out, and that's going to be a market mover. Everything else this week is kind of a nothing burger. We did have retail sales today. They came in a little higher than expected, which is good for the economy, which is really good for the economy. I'd like to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that data and see where that number actually came from, because it's very surprising to me that retail sales are up, especially with the tariffs being through the roof right now. But yeah, initial jobless claims coming out tomorrow. That will be a market mover. Caution, whenever you're trading around those times, it is likely you get wicked out if you're using too high of a leverage, just because that's how news works, baby. The whales use that time period, that hopium or despair, to take advantage of areas of low liquidity in the market. And when people have those 100, 200x positions open, it gives them a lot of food to go after, those whales and sharks to go after, baby, to eat on both sides, the long and the short side, the bulls and the bears. Next week, we don't have a lot coming out next week. Honestly, I was skimming over it. There's not a lot of things. Thursday, the jobless claims again. We have consumer sentiment on Friday, but there's not a lot as far as news events. U.S. leading economics indicators. I'm not really sure what goes into that. I haven't seen this one on here before, so that'll be interesting to see. I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into that. But yeah, we don't have Jerome Powell talking. We don't have anything really coming up until the following week, so we'll deal with that when we get there as well, baby, as well. But that's what we're looking at for the upcoming events. Fear and greed. Oh, fear and greed sitting at about 29 right now, sitting in the fear. Historically, a great time to accumulate some of those favorite assets, baby. Some of those favorite assets. Last week we were in extreme fear, and now Bitcoin currently sitting at about 84.5, looking okay. All right, let's dive into the fun stuff, baby. Let's dive on into altcoins. I want to start where it's the rug pull of the century. It really is a Mantra DAO network being hyped up by everyone, and I like this coin. This coin had great tokenomics, great developers, a great team in the real world asset space, making partnerships left, right, and wow, what a nukage from Mantra DAO. And you could see this as a daily candle. I don't see this as a daily candle. I see this as 2 minutes. This is a rug pull, ladies and gentlemen, however you want to put it. And I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it. This is a discount, everybody. I wouldn't touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. This was at about a $7 billion market cap. And in the span of 2 minutes, $3.5 billion was removed from this asset. It likely was a team developer wallet. I don't know what they did. I don't know what they're messing with here, but this is a rug pull. And yes, I know people were getting hyped down here. Look at this. We had a 50% pump from the 258% pump from the down. Yeah, that's going to happen when you have a colossal capitulation. This isn't even a capitulation. There was no buy pressure, a lot of panic in here, and I don't blame everybody. Look at the daily chart. Look at this. This is a rug pull, and it's sad to see. This is a slap in the face to the crypto industry. This is like Trump coin. This is like Melania coin. This wasn't even a meme coin. This was crazy to see from Mantra DAO. And there's likely going to be a lawsuit that comes from this. I would be highly surprised if there's not a lawsuit that comes from this, because there's no way this doesn't violate the white paper that they were going based off of. And the partnerships that they were making, everybody must be pissed. I would be pissed. And luckily I don't own any of this coin, but I know a lot of people did. And got absolutely wrecked. So it's important, with the exception of Bitcoin, I think, that all your eggs aren't in one basket, baby. All your eggs aren't in one basket. And it's sad to see. I know there are people who had all their eggs in this basket. And all the eggs in the basket being down 86% in a matter of a couple of days. That's heartbreaking, and my heart goes out to each and every single person that has lost everything in this. And the team should be ashamed of themselves. This is absolutely crazy to see from MontraDAO, one of the hottest coins in the game, making moves despite Bitcoin's downturn, making absolute moves since November, has hardly even had a pullback comparatively to the rest of the space. And in a single 2-minute time period, nukage to the downside, baby, nukage to the downside. I wouldn't touch this thing. I wouldn't trade this thing. I don't, probably not even going to look at it again. I mean, I will for reference, absolutely. But look at this on the weekly. This is a rug pull. That's what it looks like. And you can pull your fibs. You can do whatever you want as far as technical analysis go. Technical analysis did not and could not. I don't care who you are. I don't care what TA you use. There was nothing that I saw a move like this coming. This is a rug pull. No, in a TA's perspective, from TA's perspective, that amount of money that is moved is manipulation from a team or a developer wallet. And I'd be interested to know who sold here from MontraDAO. They didn't just sell. They didn't limit out or anything. They market sold and caused massive liquidations to the downside. People got into fear, selling their bags. I don't blame them. This was this was craziness. And like, it's wild. These are minute candles. You had that massive drop to the downside, but look at this. People who caught the leverage play from the downside made a 200% gain on spot in an hour. Like, that is wild, and I doubt anybody caught that because just a massive fear. I'm sure people were longing on the way down, and it led to more capitulations to the downside. But man, I am honestly flabbergasted. I think that's the right word, flabbergasted, at what happened to MontraDAO here, baby. MontraDAO to the downside, and likely, in my opinion, to never return to the highs. What a run it was, but what a scam it was too. And shout out to the team outsmarting everybody and playing the rug pull game just like all the other scammers are in the world. They're gonna have to speak of themselves in court, I would imagine. I'm looking very much forward to that lawsuit, baby, to that lawsuit. Next thing I want to talk about, baby. Let's talk about gold. Gold going on a meteoric tear, up at almost $3,400, making all-time high minute after minute after minute, sitting at an all-time high right now. In the last 3 minutes, this is the most expensive gold has ever been. Gold currently sitting at an all-time high of $33.54. This is insane for gold, ripping to the upside, and it makes sense with all this economic uncertainty, with Trump going back, forth, tariff, no tariff, you get a discount, no, you don't get a discount, we're going to discount this industry, never mind, China, I hate you. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what the president is doing right now, and I get it, but it's the wishy-washy in the market leads to uncertainty. The bond market going absolutely crazy, and gold and commodities ripping to the upside because people will run to this asset when they don't know what to do. And it's not even a fact of like people don't know what to do with their money. I don't blame people for not knowing what to do with their money, but as far as history goes, gold has always been a safe haven where you could place your money and be sure that you're at least going to maintain your purchasing power. And that's why people are running the gold, because they're not really sure about their purchasing power right now, whether or not the market's going to move up or down. And that's why the gold is getting a lot of love right now. Look at the daily candles for gold. This has been a meteoric moon. These are daily candles just in the past 5 days. Gold, the largest asset, one of the largest assets in the world, an $18 trillion market. Gold in the past 4 days has had almost $2 trillion added to its valuation. $2 trillion, that's 2,000 billion, that's $200,000 million added to gold, baby, added to gold in the past 4 days alone. That is wild to see for gold, or 6 days alone in the past week. That is wild to see. $200,000 million purchases of gold. That is wild to see. And on a meteoric uptrend, looks like gold's not stopping, baby. Looks like gold is just about to go on a vertical line. And could it? Absolutely. If tariffs don't cease and markets continue to rattle, This could definitely be a mover that does not stop moving to the upside as people run to this asset for safety. That's what I'm looking at for gold, baby. That's what I'm looking at for gold. We went over gold. We went over Mantra DAO. We went over BTC. Drop your altcoins in the chat if you guys want to look over any altcoins. We're going to do what we do every single day. We went over Ohm, the biggest loser of the day. No surprise. And let's go over Core Network. Core, baby. Core. The biggest winner on the day, according to Bubbles. Let's go over Core, baby. Core. Let's go on the perpetuals on Bybit. Core on the daily, making a meteoric move to the upside out of that daily bullish divergence that you were forming back here, getting that reaction from that swing down in price here, the swing down in price, while you have that swing up on the RSI indicator slash swing across on the RSI indicator. We are getting a swing up there. You got that reaction off the lows, and it said you were gonna likely crack this 57-cent level before you crack this 34-cent level, and today we did. That's bullish divergence playing out here in the near term for Core. Wow, what a meteoric run it had back here in March of 2024. Even in November, it didn't have as cataclysmic of a run to the upside, baby, to the upside. But yeah, let's zoom on in here. We are gapping up in the VRVP. That is a good sign, and you're likely to come as once you start cracking these 200 MAs, it is no joke. 200 MA dominoes to the upside. You're above the 6. You're above the 8. You are above the 8. Are you above the 12? You're going to come to the 12-hour 200 MA, and we're right there right now. And this candle closes in about 1 hour and 41 minutes. What happens when you close above the 12? Well, then you're likely to go to the daily 200 SMA, which is sitting up here at about 82 cents, a meteoric 30% run to the upside, 36% run to the upside is likely if we could close above this 12-hour 200 SMA and maybe even get some consolidations at 3 white soldiers right there, looking very good to the upside for Core, baby, for Core. That's what I'm looking at for Core. Our biggest winner on the day for crypto. Bubbles, that gap in the VRVP does look really juicy here. It does look really juicy. That support level of 49 cents did hold to the upside for Core, baby, to the upside for Core. Wanda, thanks for shouting out. Thank you for shouting out, Wanda. Hyperliquid. Let's dive on into Hyperliquid and see what we're seeing here on the charts, baby. Okay. I can't believe Hyperliquid fell to $10. I'm not going to lie to you. That is crazy. That's crazy for Hyperliquid, a very strong asset in the game. All right, on the daily, Hyperliquid. Let's clear this up here. So without putting any lines or anything on the chart, we can see that we are about to start gapping up here in the VRVP. You start gapping up in the VRVP, the likelihood of you coming up to this $20 region is very, very high. As this was a capitulation event, you're likely going to get the same to the upside as you start squeezing shorts. The VRVP says, yes, this is very likely. We have our ball likely to roll down the hill, up ball, down the hill, up to your next trough, which is sitting at about that $20.50 level. That does look very promising for Hyperliquid here in the near term. You do have a clear area of resistance here. You've touched it once, you've touched it twice, and we haven't been we haven't been able to get above that line of resistance so far. Also a scenario, you could see this. You can see this shoulder, this head, and you can see the right shoulder form as we go throughout the coming days. If Bitcoin does continue to trade sideways or struggle, if Bitcoin takes a dip, you could look for this right shoulder to come to fruition here for Hyperliquid, baby, for Hyperliquid. The daily stochastics curving to the upside, even though overbought, it still has legs to run to the upside. Looks good. RSI is looking good. You're not forming any mega bearish divergence here. You can say that this is hidden bearish divergence. I could get on that train as you have a swing across here on the RSI while you have that massive swing down in price action. That is hidden bearish divergence as the RSI resets to the upside while you have a new higher or lower high coming in on the charts. That could come into fruition, especially if you pump up here. If you pump up here on the RSI and this continues to go flat, that would be bearish divergence in a nutshell, baby. Hidden bearish divergence in a nutshell. That would be very strong too. So I'd be keeping an eye on that for Hyperliquid. This RSI did get quite a bit of a pump off of the lows here at about $10. Isn't that crazy? In just a couple of days, this asset's up 50% from the lows, 60% from the lows where you at, 71% from the lows for Hyperliquid. liquid. Buying down here takes balls, everybody. It takes some big cojones, ones that you got to wheel around in the wheelbarrow like South Park. But yes, you can get those big moves off the bottom, and you know, that's where it comes in. Whenever you're building a spot buying strategy, you need to be buying on those red days, and it's crazy. Even if you bought in here, and here, you know, here, and here, you're still sitting at, you know, break even for hyper liquid, and you got in at some pretty good prices, and you even still bought in the red. It's kind of crazy to see this asset where it is right now. Let's see if we can get that reversal to the upside for hyper liquid, get that gap in the VRVP. You're likely to be flagging out here on the smaller time frames. Let's look at the 4-hour here. Yeah, you're getting a nice little flag here on the 4-hour time frame. We need to see this higher high come to fruition here so that we don't get that triple top slash head and shoulders style scenario, but you are getting a nice little flag here for hyper liquid that is forming. And when I say little flag, I do not mean little flag. I mean a nice big flag for hyper liquid. Is if you start breaking out of this and you go to the target of the flag, that brings you back, yes, all the way that at $24 level. That is the measured move for this bull flag here, sitting above that 4-hour 200 SMA. Looks very, very likely, especially with the gap in the VRVP here to support you, Wanda. That's what I'm looking at for hyper liquid here, and that brings you up in confluence with that high volume node sitting at about 2367, Wanda. That's what I'm looking at for hyper liquid. I think this thing could do some massive damage. I like the project. I think the NFT space is going to come back. I think it will. I still think there are stronger plays in the game, but I don't think the NFT cycle is dead. I think the NFTs will come back and come back with a vengeance like they did in 2021. I don't know if you guys have seen the NFTs. For those of you who don't know what NFTs are essentially digital forms of art that you could non-fungible tokens. You can own art, like digital pieces of art, and you can rent it out. You can do whatever you want with it. But the big one that went around was those monkeys, those gorillas, those apes. I don't know if you seen those. The original one went off for stupid money. It was monkey maybe. These ones right here. Yeah, these were all the rage, going for hundreds of Ethereum back in 2021, 70, 100 Ethereum. I've seen some of these, and it's crazy. It's like, why would someone buy, like, why would someone buy? Well, they're just unique. They're unique, and people love them. People love them, and people were paying some ridiculous amounts of money. All of these are NFTs. Absolute crazy, absolute crazy. Yeah, you think you could even dive on in here and you could buy this one for $20, right? Standard license, like this is just a license, but yeah, you could buy these and license them out. It's pretty interesting. The NFT space, not a space that I'm heavily invested into, even though I do think that this space can do some numbers. I think there's stronger plays in the game, but hyper liquid aims to add a little bit of a twist to that, and I think there's some big upside to this project. So that's what I'm looking at for hyper liquid. Let's dive into XRP. People have been asking about XRP, wondering if XRP is going back to the moon. XRP did get that monumental bounce, even though it started closing candles beneath that daily 200 SMA. You are still above that daily 200 SMA for XRP, but I have to say this. That high volume node at 241 is going to be the area where I flip to bullish, baby, where I flip to bullish. Why am I going to flip to, why am I going to flip to bullish at 241? Because we'll be able to get back above the high volume node. We have to acknowledge that the bears are winning here. The bears are winning, and the bears are in control here for XRP as you've fallen beneath a key area of support resistance. Support, fell below, got above, support. And now you start resistance, and we're struggling to get back above this $2.13, $2.14 level. And even if you do, when you gap up to this high volume node, that is going to be an area of a lot of resistance for XRP, and people may be looking to exit the market in that area. That's where I'd be looking to if I was a whale. I don't know if that's going to happen, and this historically has been one of the stronger coins in the game since November, so we'll see what happens. The daily stochastics are really cooked here. You do have a nice set of bullish divergence that did give you that reaction off of the daily 200 SMA, so we'll have to keep XRP on our radar. I'm not all bearish. What I am saying is that you fell beneath the key area of support resistance, that support resistance flip. You're beneath the high volume node, and there's nothing beneath you to catch you to the downside to $1.47, and you got this bounce. Once Bitcoin started getting some buy pressure, so did a lot of these altcoins. But you have this area at $1.45. There's no support beneath you besides $1.45, $1.10, and back from once you came at about 60 cents. So that's just why I think it's a little bit more dangerous to hold XRP right now, just because of the giant gaps in the VRVP to the downside. Not saying there's not support there, but there's no proof that there is support there. You can't look at the VRVP and be like, oh yeah, there's buy orders left here. I could see where the buy orders were left here. I could see where a lot of XRP changed hands, and it did right here in this little consolidation zone, in this consolidation zone. On the run up, that was likely a short squeeze event where people lost their XRP due to short position that they've probably held from, God knows where. So, or even over that $3 range back in 2017. So those shorts got squeezed. Those shorts got massively squeezed. And it wasn't necessarily anyone buying XRP. It was people getting liquidated out of their short positions. And now you got this massive consolidation range. And that leaves risk to the downside because there was nobody buying in this area right here. And you could argue, yeah, oh, but they bought right here. And that did close that gap very nicely. But you still have two major gaps beneath you from that 60 all the way from 60 to $1.45. That area has not been tested and has not been proven to be an area of support or any valid buy pressure, with the exception of this $1.10 region, $1.45 region. But there's not a lot of proof that there's a lot of buy pressure down here. So that's just something that I'm looking at for XRP. We got to be careful with this VRVP to the downside. Anytime you see this giant gap where we don't have any nodes sticking out to you, those nodes serve as key areas of support for you, where there's buy orders left over, because you can see where the bulls won out in the past. Here, buy orders did win. I acknowledge that. And you got that pump to the upside. The buy orders did win. So there's likely, that's why I say this is an area of support, because I could see, oh, the bulls won out here, and there's a likely limit buy orders in down here at that $1.45 range. So that would be an area where I'd be looking for a bounce, baby. A bounce on XRP. I'm not saying that we're going to go there, but if we do fall to the downside, these are the areas where I would be interested in taking a trade on XRP. But that's what I'm looking at. That's what I am looking at, baby, for XRP. We went over gold, we went over XRP, we went over mantra DAO, we went over BTC, and that is what we are looking at for the day, ladies and gentlemen. We got Move. Move is headed to the downside. That's looking absolutely crazy. One of the tokens that was picked up by World Liberty Financial, absolutely getting cataclysmically wrecked to the downside, baby, to the downside. Does not look good for Move. That's absolutely crazy. So whenever you're looking at, if you guys want to see, let's see here. Whenever you guys want to look at anything like, with World Liberty Financial as well, you go over here to Arkham's site. Arkham has World Liberty Fi's portfolio here on the books, and you can see everything that they do. Everything that they do, and you can sort it. They're currently sitting at about $100 million. That's strange. That's very strange. I thought this portfolio was a lot bigger than this. They bought 755,000 SEI. All right, so they withdrew a bunch of their tether. That's fine. They bought a bunch of SEI. Got it. Oh, okay. They deposited tether, and then they took tether out. So you can see everything that they do. You can see everything that they do. And all I did was sort this by transactions that were greater than 100,000. So this is interesting. This is very interesting. I thought this portfolio was so much bigger, though. I really did. So I'm going to have to do a little. I thought this was closer to half a. This was definitely closer to $500 million at one point. If I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong, but I'll take a little bit of a deeper look into that. It was right here. It was. What happened on the 4th of... Yeah, so you did get that massive pump here. You can see this was worth almost $400 million, and then you had a massive drop on the 6th. You had a massive drop on the 6th. I'll do a little bit of a deep dive into that, and I'll see what happened. They have been steadily they've been buying the dip. They've been buying the dip and buying the dip and buying the dip and buying the dip, and they haven't stopped buying the dip. But yeah, Intel.Arkham.com has all the wallets of all the big players. You can see a lot of institutions on here. World Liberty Fi, that's Trump's cryptocurrency project. This is absolutely crazy. Let's see what Ethereum's looking like. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, they've been doing a lot of buying on ETH. Yeah, I'll take a little bit of a look in the off time. I'll bring you guys an update on that. That's crazy. Down 40% in the last 6 months. That's absolutely wild. But that's what you could look at. That's what you could look at whenever you're looking at. That's how I know what's happening with the World Liberty Financial Wallet. I just look at Arkham.com, Intel.Arkham.com, and they have a really, really good site that goes over everything, and you can sort everything, and you can see what they're doing. This is how people know when the World Liberty Financial Wallet is doing something. So over here on Arkham's site. So it's super cool, super cool. Wanda wants to look at Sui. Sui is one of the hottest coins in the game. We took a trade on Sui the other day, and it got washed in like 30 minutes. Absolutely crazy. The market volatility went absolutely bananas. Absolutely bananas. So, hey, it is what it is. We reset and we look for the next opportunity. I haven't been doing a lot of leverage trading because this environment has been absolute trash for leverage trading. Altcoins been getting whipsawed around just at the, honestly, why'd that trade get washed? It was just a tweet by Donald Trump. It's crazy. It's crazy the influence that guy has on the market right now. It is absolutely wild. Tariffs, no tariffs, tariffs, yeah, tariffs, no tariffs. And you're essentially right now, the way I see trading, and this sucks, I hate to say this, but the way I see trading in this environment is gambling, betting that the president is going to tweet something else out. And if he does, you're hoping that it stimulates the market in the direction that you have your trade open. So it's been absolutely crazy when it comes to leverage trading. And I'm kind of sitting on my hands with it. I tried to leverage trade the other day, it got washed. I'm not looking to do that again. I'm waiting for this tariff news to kind of fizzle out and let the trading environment be a little more favorable to me. All right, so Sui, let's zoom on out on the daily time frame. Sui does have a very nice set of daily bullish divergence here. You're getting a swing up on the RSI while you do have a swing down on the price action. That is looking good for Sui here in the near term. We are getting a little bit of a sell-off. You got that reaction there off the bullish divergence, but now is that enough gas to get you over? It wasn't enough gas to hold you over the high volume node. So it does show that there are sellers above us here. There are sellers at about that $2.30 to $2.40 level. I do acknowledge that. I was looking good. This is where I was looking for the trade. I was using the high volume node as support. We put a stop underneath that. Then it got absolutely washed. It is what it is. But yeah, Sui to the upside looks really good with this daily bullish divergence. A lot of the altcoins have that daily bullish divergence, but I have to point this out to everybody. This massive daily bullish divergence that we did have back here did not come to fruition. We got the reaction, but it ended up failing. That daily bullish divergence ended up failing. What happens when daily bullish divergence fails? That is a massive bearish indicator to me whenever I'm looking at the charts. Just like whenever you violate bearish divergence, that's what I'm seeing for Sui here. Daily bullish divergence to the upside out of this massive sell-off that we've had for one of the hottest assets in the game. It does the same thing as Ethereum, creates a beautiful layer 1 environment for people to develop on without the gas fees, cheaper, faster, and better, in my opinion, than Ethereum. And I really think this coin can take a top 10 spot in the next few years. I really think it can. I think it could pump very, very hard to the upside. And the valuation right now at about $7 billion, super undervalued to me. I think this thing will move like Solana once the market gets moving again. Sui, baby. If I had to pick a coin that I think is going to do the hottest in the top 50, or I'd put two on there. I'd put Sui and Ondo. I think those coins are going to massively outperform. I would say Chainlink, but Chainlink, the developer wallet has been selling a lot. I don't know. I don't know. I think Chainlink's a great project, and I think the team is very, very smart. But I whenever the developers start selling, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, man. So yeah, Sui to the upside looks really good. Sui and Ondo, my top altcoin picks for the altcoin run if we are to get it. Now, are we going to get an altcoin run? Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. Dominance has been absolutely screaming to the upside, and we're looking for a reversal here. And I know I've been saying that day in and day out on these streams. We had this inverted cup and handle, baby. Cup and handle coming up to the bearish 618, 786 golden pocket Fibonacci retracement with the weekly bearish divergence here. The weekly bearish divergence divergence. The convergent line did break, but we still have weekly bearish divergence here. That wick has not been broken here. This wick has not been broken, so that bearish divergence is still in play. We have a giant gap in the VRVP beneath this, and let me remind everybody, when altcoin season happens, it's going to be like this. It's going to happen like this again. It's going to be a nukage on Bitcoin down. Very unlikely we trend down like this. Very unlikely we trend down. It is likely going to be a nukage, a FOMO type scenario for altcoins, some of the most speculative assets in all markets across the world. So that's why I'm looking at for Bitcoin dominance inverted cup handle to the downside. Coming down to this 4157 level represents about a 25% drop on Bitcoin dominance. As $500 billion being injected into the altcoins. If Bitcoin held its current price, I still think Bitcoin is going up to that $200,000, $150,000 to $200,000 level. But you know, and people want me to put a time frame on it. I really think it could happen by the end of the year. I really do. And it would catch everybody with their pants down. And I know despite the macroeconomics right now, I think this tariff war will fizzle out. And I think risk on assets will come back, and it will come back very, very quickly. And these altcoins will go to the moon. And that would go very, very nicely with this giant gap in the VRVP out of the inverted cup and handle looking very, very good. Like 2021, if we could have a move like that, and a move could happen fast. And you know what will happen? It'll happen immediately after this trade war is over. Whenever people are like, okay, we're done. No more tariffs. None of that. We made an agreement. That's when altcoin season, I believe, will start, baby, because the macroeconomics will be in favor for risk on assets, baby, for risk on assets. All right, diving on into the chat. Appreciate each and every single one of you guys for being here. We looked at Sui for Wanda, Michaela B. I appreciate you. Remember to drop that like, share, and subscribe. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, make sure to smash that like button. Really helps me out. Crypto Creek, I appreciate you being here, man. What do you know? Sui needs to correct further. Do you see that? Unsatisfied. Hey, you know, Sui, baby, Sui. You know, I think Sui has room to go to the downside. Sui does have room to go to the downside, but I'll say this about some of the hottest altcoins in the game. I will say this. I can't argue that I think these are some of the best prices you're going to see for Sui. Why? Do I think Sui can potentially be a $10, $20 coin here in the future? I think once altcoin season does start on the weekly, you know, and this coin was on Dex Screener before it did get released back in later 2024. This came down to the 886. Sui can correct further. I do acknowledge that, and I think it can definitely happen. Let's see where it looks like from this reaction down here. Yeah, you're looking at that double bottom scenario, man. This is what Sui's kind of preying on right now. I totally agree. But I think as strong as this asset is, you're getting some nice daily bullish divergence. I think this could be the squeeze opportunity to the upside. And if Bitcoin starts to run and that dominance does start to roll over, which I see happening sooner rather than later, we're in that golden pocket. It can happen at any day. And we're looking at the weekly chart, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking at the weekly chart. Likely going to be, this could happen within the next month. That's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin dominance, baby, to go to the downside. Once Bitcoin dominance starts to roll over, that's when we're truly going to see what altcoins are the strongest in the game, baby. That's what's going to separate the men from the boys, as the football coach used to say. It really is. It really is. And is Sui going to be one of those market leaders? It does remain to be seen. But speculatively, I think Sui and Ondo are going to be some of the hottest plays in the game. I do think some of the other coins here in the top 10, you know, and we looked at this the other day. Just because a coin is in the top 10 does not guarantee it being in the top 10 forever. This is a 2017 screenshot from back in December 17th of 2017, 8 years ago. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4 coins in the top 10 that are still there today. So I do think the emerging technologies and projects do have a lot of room to push to the upside and potentially overtake some of the hotter projects in the game. I do think there could potentially be a better Ethereum, and the market is agreeing. The market is agreeing right now with Ethereum over 50% off the highs, getting absolutely demolished. Ethereum, baby, Ethereum on the perpetuals. Sui, I do agree with you, man. I do think Sui could come down further. I think anything's possible. I think it's possible that we could potentially be even running into the bear market right now. It's possible. I have to be open-minded. I have to keep that on my radar. And, you know, when would that happen? We'd have to break the prior low at about 50,000 for me to say, hey, yeah, this is definitely the bear market, because that'd be a change in market structure. a change in market structure. But I think Sui has the potential to come up and compete with Solana and Ethereum, and that's why I like the project so much. Are you going to get a 10x out of Ethereum? A $15,000 Ethereum? I don't think that's likely based off of the current market structure you're seeing right now. Very unlikely that you're going to see something like this. You know, even the course of, you know, like you would have to, this would take years. This would take years to get up even to the $6,500, like, and this would look like a standard chart. I don't know if Ethereum is going to recover from this. I really don't, and it's crazy to say that. It's crazy to say that, but Vitalik Buterin needs to come up with something. He needs to come up with something fast. You've been oversold on the weekly for 2 months now. You don't have a single bullish indicator here for Ethereum, despite bouncing a little bit off this double bottom here. And you're praying right now that this high volume note could hold you up. And that's Ethereum. That's the lead. That historically has been the leading altcoin indicator for altcoin season. Do I think that Ethereum's going to lead the altcoin season again? No, I don't. I really don't think Ethereum's going to lead it. It just, to me, the tokenomics aren't there. It really aren't. The gas fees are super high. It's expensive to use. You have an infinite supply here on Ethereum, max supply, infinity, baby. And, you know, it's inflationary. So is Solana. For those of you who didn't know, Solana also infinite supply. Absolutely crazy. I think there's going to be some more solid tokenomic plays that break into the top 10 this cycle. I really do. BNB snuck up in here in number 5, and I think this project is very, very undervalued. Binance, one of the strongest chains in the game, and their token looks to moon, baby, moon. I think this could definitely take a top 3 spot. I really do. When the altcoin season does start to begin, if we are going to get that, but that's what I'm looking at, baby. That's what I'm looking at. I agree with you. I think Sui can come further to the downside, but in my opinion, averaging in here is not a bad idea for a project that I think has the potential to hit $10, potentially even $20 this in the alt season when it does come around. And you crack that high at $5, and I think eventually we'll get some flattening out here and we will reverse to the upside. I think Sui's a project that's here to stay. It's higher risk. Why is it higher risk? Well, you know, it only has a $6.7 billion market cap. It's higher risk. Ondo, even a higher risk than that. I think Ondo fell off. You know, down, you know, where's Ondo at? Ondo, baby. What's the market cap of Ondo right now? It's got to be under $1 billion, doesn't it? No, it's not under 2.62 billion. So that's about twice as risky to me. Why? Because there's not as much market cap liquidity in there to hold that price up, preventing people from selling and suppressing price further. That's what I'm looking at, baby. That's what I'm looking at. Hey, I appreciate you jumping on in the comments, Crypto Creek. Thank you, man. Thank you. Which coin is the Google for crypto? Wanda, if you're thinking about what I'm thinking, Kaito, baby, Kaito. Let's see. It's over on Dex Screener. Dex Screener for sure. Actually, we're not going to look at it on Dex. I think it's on trading. Yeah, we have to look at it on Dex. Why do we have to look at it on Dex? Because Dex Screener has a price history that TradingView does not. This just came out on TradingView not long ago. Kaito, the Google, baby, the K-I-T-O. Kaito, the Google of crypto. I think this thing can do some damage. I really do. With that being said, I do acknowledge that the liquidity here is falling and it's not locked. It's at 66,000. You're getting a lot of buys coming in here. I love the project. I love the idea. But with that being said, it only has a $170 million market cap. The coins that I was just talking about, Sui and Ondo, have 2 billion plus, 2 billion and 6 billion respectively for Ondo and Sui. This doesn't have a billion. This has a 170 million. To get to Ondo's market cap, this thing would have to 10x. A lot higher risk. You have about a 94,000 holders, and you know, you do have some people. You have 2 people holding 54% of the supply, 60% of the supply, top 3. Yeah, you do have a lot of people holding the top percentage of this coin right now. I like the white paper. I like the website. I think this thing is really, really interesting. Very, very interesting. I did go over this. I did do a video on Kaito, diving on into the white paper and stuff. Their Twitter looks pretty good. But you know, 282,000 followers. InfoFi with AI. I think AI is going to be a big player in this space once the altcoin season starts. I think that's going to be one of the hottest narratives in the game, baby. In the game. April, I appreciate you. You're an absolute legend. Wanda, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Kaito. That's the Google of crypto. Once this space starts taking off and people are looking for alternatives, even if Kaito could take a sliver, a 0.0001% of Google searches that go through Google about crypto, and that AI can help filter out a lot of the nonsense, I think Kaito can massively scream to the moon. I think that is very, very cool. I think the project is really, really neat. But just because I think that doesn't mean it's going to go to the moon. I don't personally own Kaito. I'm keeping the project on my radar. I'm tracking it, but it could go either way. It's still at a very, very low market cap, and 66,000 liquidity is a very small number. I like to see a $200,000 liquidity pool that's locked in order for me to feel the warm and fuzzies about a project, right? Even an emerging project, a $200,000 lock liquidity with less than 50% held by the top 10 people, or I'd even say less than 20% by the top 10. That's what I like to see from tokenomics when I come to go looking at anything on Dex Screener. And whenever you're looking at things on Dex Screener, a lot of those things are on Solana. Go on over to Anti-Rug and plug that address in there. It'll tell you everything you want to know about the coin, baby. Everything you want to know about the coin. But that's what I'm looking at, Wanda. That's what I'm looking at. We looked at Sui. Michaela, I appreciate you diving on in. The Google for crypto, that's Kaito. Crypto Creek, I hope I answered your question, brother. I hope I answered your question. But that's our general overview. Let's dive on in. Let's take a quick peek. I know this is a crypto channel, but we gotta look, baby. We gotta look at the stock market and see how the stock market's doing. Why, boys, crypto? Why do we need to look at the stock market when, we're a crypto channel? Why, we have to. We have to, because Bitcoin has been trading in tandem with the stock market for what feels like forever. For the past 2 years or so. Bitcoin has gone hand in hand with the stock market. All right, the stock market, the NASDAQ. We'll look at the NASDAQ, a great overview about how the entire market is doing. We can look at the S&P. We'll do that in a second, but oftentimes they mirror each other, nut to butt, baby. They near each other. I don't know why I said that. That's something we used to say in the Navy. Weird. Okay, so, yeah, we dropped beneath that daily 200 SMA, retested it, and now to the downside. This is not a good sign. The last time this happened was in 2022. We fell beneath the daily 200 MA, retested it downside. That does not look good. It is very imperative for the NQ that we get back above this daily 200 SMA, the 200 simple moving average, the red line in the sand, the do not pass go line, the difference between whether I am a bull or a bear on any asset. You could cover this up. You could cover this up here and just show me candlesticks on a chart, baby, and I can tell you whether I'm bullish or bearish, and I have to be bearish underneath this red line. You get above that red line, look what happens. You get above, retest, boom. You get below, retest, boom. Above, retest, boom. And that's just how it is. Below, retest, boom, to the downside. You get above this red line, you're looking juicy, baby. You're looking good to the upside. Boom, baby, boom. You fall below and you are sitting at a substantial risk point, even if it's just a little bit of a correction, vice a crash or anything like that. It's a dangerous place to be below this red line. Notice whenever you're below the red line, what is this? 2008. 2008, we zoom on in here, we fell beneath it, we could not reclaim above it, and we nuked to the downside. When was the last time this happened? 2001, the dot-com bubble crash, baby, the dot-com bubble crash. We teetered on this 200 MA line, even close to it, we fell beneath, we retested it, and that was the dot-com bubble crash, baby, historic. I will say this is on the daily chart. This event, something like this, I want to say it's brewing. But we have to acknowledge that this was only 25 years ago. This wasn't that long ago. Yeah, it's a quarter of a century. I get that. But like in market perspective, this isn't that long. And we're trading at about 1,000 for the 929 for the NASDAQ. We are 20 times higher than that right now. There will be an event. There will be a time. Is it now? I don't think so. There will be a time where the chicken comes to roost and we pop. Let's zoom on out here. Does this look healthy to anybody? Does this look healthy? This is the weekly. Does this look healthy? This does not look healthy. And a sustained bear market is coming for the stock market. I don't think that, do I think it's going to happen now? I really honestly think we got another leg up for the stock market. I think this parabola will come to fruition. Ooh, that was a horrible parabola. I think this parabola will come to fruition, right? But parabolas, nothing goes straight up in a line. I think you're going to see something like this. I think it's very, very likely. But once you have that blow off top candles, and you'll see that Terra 4 gets resolved, we get some massive pump up to 33, and we start consolidating, and then that breakdown. This correction is going to be the correction of a century, because this will be a monumental 50% pullback for the stock market, and I do see it happening exactly like this. You got a massive run-up, consolidation, and a massive sell-off event, some kind of negative news, and this will take years. This could take years. We're looking at this on the weekly time frame, and it's very important to understand that, but I do think we do have a bull market coming up here for the stock market, even though the short-term volatility to the downside, this trade war will get resolved. Mark my words, it will. This will not last long. The economy, the country, both the United States, China, and the world cannot take this kind of economic pressure and uncertainty. It will hurt a lot of the middle class. It'll hurt a lot of people, and a lot of people will be out of jobs, and more so out of retirement. People cannot retire if the market, the vast majority of people getting ready to retire cannot support a market downturn at this moment. They can't. They can't. Market crashes 50%, if we have some kind of event like that, like a COVID style event, and it stays down there for too long without revisiting the highs, people will be down 50% on their retirement accounts. They'll go and open it up, look at it, and be like, what happened? I just had $500,000 in this account, and now it's at 250,000. I can't retire on this. Or 100,000, and now I'm at 50K. That's the reality. That happens in the market all the time. So it's very, very important, that if you're getting ready to retire or something, you have a plan. You have a plan, right? Because the market, from the highs, whenever you look at your retirement account, you're at the highs. You're not at the highs anymore. You're 17% down on the average stock, right? Based on the NQ and the S&P 500. S&P... Where's my AND symbol? I can never find the AND symbol, baby. The S&P 500, let's look at the futures. This same deal, looking a little worse here on the S&P 500, down about a little better, 14%. This is on the tech sector. The tech sector, one of the heaviest invested areas when it comes to 401ks, and where a lot of people decide to place their money. So this thing is down too. It's just important to have a plan. That's all I'm saying. It's just important to have a plan when it comes to your retirement and everything. But this does not look good. It shows some weakness here in the market. With that being said, I think regardless of whatever weakness that we do see, I do think that once this Terra 4 does stop and we start getting this money printing, baby, that Jerome Powell did hint today, that money printer to the upside looks very, very likely. If we get that money printer, you know where it's going. Where did it go in COVID? The charts look, this looked horrible. This is the bottom of COVID. And you know what happened? Boom, money printing to the upside. Money printer, money printer, money printer, money printer. Where does that money land? It lands in the market. People will get it and be like, oh, I'll put it in the market. Or people are like, I'll put that in my savings account. And what happens when it goes in your savings account? The bank says, well, they put it in their savings account. We're going to invest it, and then we'll pay them a piddly return. It's horrible. But we're going to make money on it. It's awesome that they put that money in their savings account. So it all, when the Fed turns on the money printer, it all goes either into needs, what people need, which people just don't do. People will spend it on ridiculous stuff. They'll spend it on cars. They'll spend it on TVs. They'll spend it on things that they don't really need just once, right? Or they'll put it in the market in some way, shape, or form, whether they do it themselves or the banks do it for them. And that pumped the market to the upside as COVID did. I'll tell you what I did. I was in the Navy. Not needing anything. I didn't lose my money. I didn't lose paycheck. I didn't lose a paycheck. I was just sitting there. I was sailing around, right? Not even sailing. I was at school at the time. Where I was just hanging out, and I was getting a couple $1,000s deposited each of these checks, and I was like, cool, I'll just throw it in the market. And that's what I did. That's what my friends did. That's what my teachers did. That's what I know. That's what nobody in the military that I knew, that my friends were with, that my division was with, were really, really struggling financially during that time because we had a guaranteed paycheck. And the money printer got turned on, and we all got those checks. And we just put it into the market, baby. And I don't blame anybody for doing that. But that's why you had 100,000 people. And that's just the military, less than 1% of America. A lot of people had jobs that didn't get fired. And a lot of people just got paid to stay at home. And they just put that mess in the market. And boom, to the upside, the market went. And it's likely going to happen again. Once Jerome Powell turns on that money printer, baby, to the upside, to the economy rescue. Jerome Powell, the Superman of markets, baby. Or it could be the disaster, right? Back here when he's like, we're going to be cutting rates. And that's when the market started to struggle. Or we're going to be hiking rates. Or we're going to pause rate cuts. And that scares the market because they're like, Well, you're telling me you're not going to print more money to inflate these assets a little more? Yes. And then the market started struggling. So the market does respond to those interest rates. That man is the most expensive voice in the world, arguably. You could say Donald Trump's really trying to throw his hat in the ring for that title right there. But Jerome Powell, the most expensive voice in the world, not just the United States citizens listen to him, but the world listens to him, baby. The world listens to him. So that's what I'm looking at. It is not 10 p.m. Sean Davis, what's up, man? It is not 10 p.m. I'm back on days, baby. Back on days. New stream time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, baby. Eastern Standard Time. I appreciate you jumping in. But the ladies on days now. So we got off that night schedule. So now I'm on this schedule. Can spend more time with her. You know what I mean? A great deal. And this will be the time that we're streaming from now on into the near future. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, baby. We are wrapping on up here, baby. We are wrapping on up. We looked at Bitcoin. We looked at altcoins. We covered everything in the chat, baby. Everything in the chat. We looked at the S&P. We looked at the NQ. We looked at the NASDAQ. We looked at the gold. We looked at futures. We looked at the economic calendar. We went over some of the hotter assets in the game. We even compared it to the historical snapshot of 2017 in our recap, baby. We are in a flux right now. We are in a flux, a mixture of red and green across the market as the market is still trying to digest how severe these tariffs are going to be and to what severity the Fed is going to step in with their money printing likely to come here soon, as stated by Jerome Powell in his press conference earlier today. The markets did respond to that, and we really didn't get any new news, but we did get confirmation that rate cuts are likely to come here nearing the end of the year. We want to see those come earlier, and if we get more severe tariffs and unemployment starts to rise, with unemployment coming in tomorrow, initial jobless claims coming in at about 8:30 a.m. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, a very important metric to look at. And if those numbers do come in catastrophically higher, it is going to show that companies are starting to lay people off and people are starting to file for that unemployment, right? And if people are filing for unemployment, that's part of Jerome Powell's thesis, right? Jerome Powell's basis for the Fed's existence to maximize employment while minimizing inflation. Unemployment starts to get out of hand, they'll be forced to turn on that money printer a little earlier, and if they do that, it'll inflate all assets across the globe, baby. All assets across the globe, with the exception of the safe havens like gold, baby, like gold. So that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking on. Going on in here to the rest of the week. I'm going to get on out of here, everybody. That's the market overview in a nutshell. Keep an eye on Bitcoin. See if we can keep above this high volume node sitting at about 83.7 as we go throughout the night. And let's see if we can start playing these 200 MA dominoes to the upside. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for being here. Make sure to smash that like button before you guys hop on out of here. It really does help me. I will see you guys tomorrow on the live. Until then, Boys Crypto is out, baby. We are out. I appreciate each and every single one of you being here on the live with me and sharing your time with me today. Have a great day, everyone.